Hello everyone, welcome to the intuitive card reading for the week of April 14th through 20th. Okay, what do we got going on? All right, please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, please share this video with anybody that needs to hear the energies of the week. What else? Comments down below. Please be kind. Feedback is also always welcomed. And I love when you guys interact. So, all right guys, how we feeling? I'm feeling decently okay. I know we just got out of I don't think we're out of the retrogrades yet, but no, I think we are out of the retrogrades and not the eclipses. So hopefully we're all feeling pretty decent, and let's see what the week has in store for us. So let's go. Same 3 decks shuffled. I believe they're in a different order. All right, what do we need? We have wounded child in the shadow, blames all dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds, resist moving on through forgiveness. Okay, so we need to stop using, how do I say this? We're kind of using what happened to us maybe in the past, maybe as a child, from moving forward. It's not so much, you guys know I don't really like that term victim so much. I like to use it more in the victim mentality, which is just a mindset. There's actual physical victims, and I'm sure, I mean, this falls in this category for sure. But basically it's saying that we're kind of not able to kind of like let things go and move on. Again, this is reading for the collective, so it's not going to necessarily resonate with everyone, but take what resonates and leave the rest. But this is basically saying that we need to kind of move past things that are like holding us back. And I know how that sounds because, okay, this is not a childhood thing, but for example, if you have a brain injury, you can't necessarily move on with certain things, right? Because things are keeping you stuck that you have no control over. This is saying that look at the things that you do have control over. So if it's asking you to kind of move forward without using certain things as an excuse. And yes, it could be childhood things, etc. But this is basically saying maybe tap into that go-getter mindset, that I can, that powerful, empowered type mindset and moving forward. Because this is basically saying that we're kind of, it's getting in the way for sure, but we need to not let it get in the way anymore. That's what it's saying. So take that as it is, but it's asking us to kind of move forward from those things. And yeah, I'm actually going to pick the second one because this action needed, I want to see what it says. To co-create. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense if I could put these together this way. So it's saying action needed. It's saying co-create, which is always about a card about working in partnership and also working with the, could be working with another person, but also working with the universe. Manifestation is another way to say it. So this is saying we need to move into a place, putting these two together, where we're not necessarily so, harboring on the past, and we're looking towards the future. Okay, we're looking forward. We're looking for. We're looking for just basically how to move forward and manifest. So how I'm seeing it, it's almost like, and I've used these terms before, as you guys know, it's kind of like switching from, yeah, you were in survivor mode, but now we need to be in thriving mode. Okay, so it's kind of like saying that we need to do kind of like a switch up here. And the things that are holding us back, just don't worry about them for right now and start thinking about the future and how you can manifest the things that you actually do want, and letting go of what's holding you back from that. Okay, so it's definitely saying that we really, really need to be looking forward, not looking back. That's like another, general way to kind of put it. So let's keep going and see what we got going on. Maybe more cards will make that more clear too. Issue, we have Stargazer, set your sights higher. Okay, so you have issues with setting your sights higher. That means you're not allowing yourself to dream big. It's saying that you're not seeing past your potential. Maybe your dreams are too small. So guys, I'm already getting so far with these 3 cards. This is definitely a week of starting to manifest. Okay, I have not been okay, let me actually just make something clear. You're always manifesting, right? 24/7. It's really kind of like a state of being. Your thoughts, your feelings, what you believe, all of those things go into it. And then of course, action. So this is basically saying being more mindful of the things that you think, the feelings that you have, and how you want to move forward, your beliefs and all of that stuff. So you're not thinking about it in the bigger picture, and you're not setting your sights high enough. Like, you're giving yourself small goals, right? How could I put this in an example? Okay, so I'll use me as an example. I have, one of my goals is to do something simple as far as like drink coffee. Like, I keep telling people, if I could drink coffee and eat regular foods, we'll throw that in there too. That means that I am really at a level of healing that is, pretty much almost there. Those are small things, right? I'm not thinking about bringing in a bunch of money. I'm not thinking about, what my dreams and aspirations are, like as I want to go forward maybe with this YouTube channel. I'm not thinking about any of that stuff right now, because I'm literally just trying to get to something so small as drinking a cup of coffee, right? And so basically it's saying it's not going to work anymore. Whether it's I'm getting better, or whether it's just the energy is right for this, is saying like, you got to think bigger. You have to think beyond what is like the bare minimum almost, because it's such a small thing. And I'm always somebody that is always like, it's always the simple things that bring you joy. And God, can I just say, I cannot wait to be able to eat normally and think normally, but also drink coffee and, just read a book in its entirety. I haven't been able to read a book in its entirety in almost 4 years. So it's, and that's like, it's kind of like a small thing, right? So I'm really thinking about all the small things, but that's good for the, it's a very humble thing, right? We've been getting the humility cards lately. And trust me, this has humbled me, but Spirit is saying, no, you need to start thinking bigger and beyond your what you think your potential is, right? So yeah, and we're having issues with that, all right? But it's saying we really do need to move past it, right? Especially when the action needed is the co-create. And by the way, action needed means we need to actually take action, okay? So this definitely does feel like a week of action. All right, we have advocate upside down for challenge, embracing negative causes, or committing to causes for personal gain. Okay, so this is basically saying that we're not doing things necessarily for the right reasons, or we're having issues with advocacy or communication with advocacy. So we might be a little too righteous. We might be doing things that feel against our integrity. That might be some of you guys out there. It definitely does feel like more so you guys are going to be doing that, going against what you feel is right, or there's something going on that it feels like it's against what you believe. It's against what your morals, your ethics, things like that. Okay, because usually advocate is about that. So that's going to be challenging. So something is going to come up this week. Could be with work, for example. Maybe you're taking on a project, maybe like a new client, that you're not necessarily on board with. They do a lot of things that you're not necessarily okay with, and it definitely does. It seems challenging for you. So and I'll be honest, it doesn't feel major, but it definitely could be something that could bother you this week. So that could be another challenge going on there. All right, what's actually going to change? We have serendipity. Okay, serendipity is always about like flow. Things that are serendipitous is like, it's almost sort of like the fates card too. It's just kind of like things will happen the way that they're supposed to happen, in divine order, divine timing. And so you're going to feel a little bit more in flow. We actually haven't gotten a flow card in a really long time. Not in the weeks, I don't think the April month we had a flow card at all. So this is basically saying like things are going to be happening that feel almost quote unquote lucky, serendipitous, kismet, meant to be, things like that. And that's what's changing. And that's really good. So it definitely feels like things are feeling like they're a little bit easier, and things are just kind of like falling into your lap instead of like working so hard, right? Because that's really the difference between flow versus force, right? Things are just flowing to you. You don't have to force it so much. And that's really good, because nobody likes that force feeling, right? Okay, focus. Heart guardian, love and let yourself be loved. Okay, so this is really saying like focus on your heart chakra, focus on your relationships, focus on loving yourself, self-care. We actually haven't gotten a self-care card in a really long time, so definitely focus on that. And open your heart a little bit, okay? So this might have something to do with the wounded child, maybe something, we're having issues forgiving. Again, I just mentioned force. Forced forgiveness is not real forgiveness, but feeling this energy here, it feels like it might be a little bit easier might flow a little bit better, to kind of let things go, open your heart a little bit, have a little bit more compassion for those that have hurt us and that kind of thing. So focusing on that is really going to be beneficial for us this week. All right, what do we need to reflect on? We have Hermit upside down, withdraws from society out of fear or negative judgments of others, refusing to help those in need. Okay, this is basically saying solitude, but not in the positive way, because solitude obviously could be very, very good. And we have a few different type Hermit cards in the deck. But this is basically saying, so it's under reflect, so it's saying like, really reflect on how you isolate and how you spend time alone and how you feel when you spend time alone. And do not ask for help. Do you withdraw when something bad is happening in your life, something difficult is happening in your life? Different things like that. There's something here where we really need to really think about, and again, like I said, reflect on how we pull away from other people. This could even be like looking at it like if you have an avoidant attachment style, how we do not share with others, or how we're not connecting with others, things like that. So definitely reflect on that for sure. Okay, responsibilities. We have a change in the wind. Okay, so it's your responsibility to go with the flow of changes. So definitely, okay, love the serendipity under the change, but now we actually just have a change in the wind here. So things are changing, okay? So your responsibilities are to make sure it's kind of saying like be flexible, be adaptable, but it's also saying like you have a responsibility to be the changed person. You have a responsibility to accept this change. Okay, so I definitely do feel like something is happening. And like I said, coming from up here, these first three, it definitely does feel like we're maybe getting a little bit out of that survival mode and getting into a thriving mode where we can now plan the future. Now we can look at the future. Now we can really manifest in action. Okay, so this is basically saying we could take action on certain things too. So definitely things are changing, and your responsibility is to not resist and just let it be. And I have a feeling a lot of you guys are not going to resist, because a lot of us really do need change, okay? Money and finances. We have eagles, see from a higher perspective. Okay, so this is about talking about also kind of seeing the bigger picture, like the gazer. See from a higher perspective. Okay, so this is about seeing things from a different perspective, but also a bigger perspective. So money, finances, and career, I put them all in the same category. Maybe it's time to look at money differently. Maybe it's time to look at your finances differently. Maybe it's time to look at your job and what you want out of the job differently. So something is, I like it next to the change, so that definitely signifies that it could be a change when it has to do with your perspective on your career. Maybe you've wanted a certain, job for so long, and now all of a sudden you don't want that job. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you thought you wanted to do one thing, but now you're aiming really low, and you're realizing that you definitely, again, have more potential somewhere else. So doing something else. So this is just basically shifting our perspective on something and shifting it again it feels positive, in a positive way. So just kind of like looking at things differently, looking at things from a bigger perspective. So dream bigger too. Like a lot of these cards are basically, that's the story here. It's basically saying dream bigger, okay? Which is great, because a lot of us, like I mentioned in my example earlier, I'm really dreaming pretty small. Okay, it's I've been in the survival mode for a really long time, so something as small as like being able to drink a cup of coffee without reacting, and I love coffee, is really a small thing. I'm not necessarily looking at the bigger picture, but it's saying in money, finances, and career, start looking at that, and basically in general, start looking at that. But again, it's under issue, so we do have issues kind of seeing things, from that bigger, higher perspective. Okay, surprise. What do we got? Upside down, God, despotism and cruelty, using power to control people. Okay, so it's in the shadow again. So here's this thing about control again. We've gotten it, actually, I don't think on the monthly, and I don't think the last week, but we did maybe back in March, maybe earlier March, we got a lot of cards about trying to control outcomes, trying to control other people, trying to, instead of controlling what we can control, which is ourselves, our emotions, how we react to things, we're trying to control like outside things, right? And this is basically saying playing God. So it's under surprise. So basically this behavior might come out again this week, okay? Or again, it could be to us, right? We could have a controlling person come in, or somebody try to control something where we're not feeling good at it. Good about it. We're feeling like, not liberated. We're feeling like we're oppressed in some way, shape, or form. But this definitely does feel like more likely it's us getting back into like a controlling pattern, trying to control other people, and not necessarily focusing on ourselves. It might have something to do with the wounded child up there, but again, it'll be different for everybody. All right, we have friends. What do we got? Breathe. Okay, I actually thought after getting that Hermit card that we might get some kind of take a nap card, breathe card. So this is basically saying take a break, take a breather. So it's under friends. So basically it's saying we might need to take a break from socializing. We might need to take a break from a certain person in our life. We might want to pump the brakes on our socializing. Something along those lines, since it's under friends, okay? But it's saying take a minute, or be like a little bit more present with friends. Maybe if there's somebody you haven't caught up with in a while, maybe go, speaking of coffee, grab a coffee with them, get to know, really catch up with them one-on-one or something like that. But this is basically saying slow down, you're going too fast, so this is especially potent for anybody that is doing a lot of socializing in the last couple of weeks. All right, we have Druid hold the space. Well, would you look at that? Okay, it's kind of another card of slowing down. I love this because let me just say, from the co-create card, I knew this was going to be a pretty great reading because it's more of a, we're starting to really, how do I say this? Be more present and be more intentional, actually, I think is the word I'm looking for, intentional. We're not just kind of taking what we can get. We're actually being more intentional about the things that we want. So hold the space to me means being more present, but it also means within a relationship, because it's under romantic connection, it means active listening. It means, not cutting off your partner, really holding space for their emotions, letting them vent to you, like things like that. So it definitely, and it feels like a give and take. So it definitely does feel like there is a lot more intimacy in our romantic connections, but also too, we're looking at things in a more intentional way, and we are, maybe the manifesting has something to do with our romantic connection. So this fares well for our single people because it's basically saying like, hold the space for, for another person. So you may really connect with somebody. If you're, again, dating, if you're single and you're dating, or you meet somebody, just really like hold the space, like less talking, more listening is basically what it's saying here. And you could definitely be more intentional with who you date and that kind of thing. So but the co-create could be anything, doesn't have to be in our romantic connections, but I was just kind of making that connection there. But so basically it's saying active listening, holding space for people, letting them vent, things like that. And just being very, very intentional with your words, your communication, and when it comes to, things that you want in your relationship, definitely I would bring in that co-create for sure. All right, what's important? Detective upside down, voyeurism, falsifying the information. Okay. Okay, so this is about drawing conclusions where conclusions shouldn't be drawn. So it's great that we want to be so detective always points to like curiosity, trying to figure things out, like things like that. Use your discernment, your intuition, all that good stuff, seeking out the truth. But it's important that you don't put meaning to something that doesn't have meaning. Okay, so this is about like there's a word for it, but I'm blanking on it. Like there's a term for it, but like for anybody that's like into true crime, like the detective is like investigating the crime, and they don't, there's two suspects, and one suspect they particularly don't like. They went to high school with them. They knew they were a bad person. They bullied them, and they want them to be, they want to pinpoint the crime on this particular person. and they don't do the due diligence of actually finding the evidence, doing the detective work, like all of that stuff, right? It's almost like you're not seeking the truth. You're trying to fit this person as being the suspect, right? The person that actually did it, like the person that's guilty. So it's important to do your diligence, right? And be curious, do the detective work, use your intuition and discernment, and seek out answers and seek out the truth instead of making something fit your narrative. Okay, so it's important. I don't know what this has to do with. Could be all aspects of life, could be work, could be relationships, etc. But this is about like looking at things for what they actually are, and not necessarily projection is like a good word here. Projecting what you think is true onto somebody else, or what you believe to be true onto somebody else without it actually being true. Okay, so that's very important. Health and wellness, we've got soulmates. Aw, how sweet. Okay, so soulmates is like a harmonious relationship that things really flow. So more indications here of flow, and more indications about relationships. We got here in Heart Guardian, we got a little bit forgiveness up there with the wounded child, and kind of moving past the things of our childhood. So we've got like a few things, and obviously the stuff that's going on over here, but we have this thing like we have harmonious relationships. So if you're so I use sometimes like a weight loss journey because we're under health and wellness. So maybe you find like-minded people that are on the same journey, right? Maybe you meet people at the gym, maybe you meet people in your weight loss coaching program or something. But it definitely does feel like there's harmonious connections here happening in health and wellness. You might decide to sign up for, if you're on a mental health journey, sign up for group therapy instead of individualized therapy. And you meet really like-minded people here, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic love. Could be too. Maybe you do want to lose weight and you and your partner decide to do it together, okay? Or, if you're on the mental health journey, maybe you guys go to a couples therapist, whatever it is, but definitely does feel like you find more like-minded people in this area to help you along the journey, which is great. Okay, an overall outcome we have Sage, be devoted and committed. Okay, so this is about devotion, sticking to something. So this is really good for the overall outcome because it's basically saying we can kind of like that committed type energy that we've been getting the last couple of readings as well. This is basically saying that we could stay the course, that we're finally able to stay the course, right? We're finally able to commit to something. We're finally able to, be devoted. And it says committed on the card. All right, that makes sense. Be devoted to something. So this is really about sticking to something. This is about slowing down and being more intentional about that particular thing, whatever it actually is. And again, manifesting it and bringing it into fruition. So guys, I really like this reading because there's not really, the only thing that I would say is maybe like red flaggish is that, no, you know what? I wouldn't even say that up there, the wounded child. I would actually say shadow God here because we might try to get into old habits of trying to control things. Guys, anytime we're trying to control something, we're not trusting the universe. You guys know that, right? So we even have the serendipity card saying, no, this is changing, that everything is flowing. You have to understand that you're getting into a mindset of everything is, everything that comes to me this week, everything that comes to me going forward is meant to be, is what, there's nothing I can only control what I can control. I can't control, me not getting that job. I did the best that I could on those interviews and, that's all I can do is control myself, right? And so we're moving into that, right? And so that's really good. That should give us an indication that to be a little bit more trusting and being a little bit more in flow and things, life, I don't know about you guys, but life is definitely better when that stuff happens, right? When we have synchronicities, when we have things that are serendipitous, when we feel like, we're thinking of a TV show and then we go to the doctor's office and that, that TV show is on the, on the screen, okay? Guys, it happens to me all the time when I'm reading something and watching TV at the same time. I read a word and then they say it on the TV. How many times does that happen to people? Let me know down below because that happens to me all the time, okay? And that's how I know I'm in flow, right? That is just a synchronicity. That's all that is, right? Or serendipitous, as we might say, right? And so anyway, to close this up, basically it's saying we're getting ready to be more committed. We're getting ready to be more devoted to something. And that something is intentional. And could be many things, right? Maybe it's happening in our love lives and it's happening in our work lives, we're being more intentional, and we're starting to really release what's been holding us back, and we're kind of being able to create more and really set our sights higher, you know, moving to a place where our potential could finally, without all these obstacles that we've been dealing with, they're actually achievable, right? They actually feel achievable, right? And we're kind of like moving into that headspace, which is great. So guys, I love it. I love it. I love it. I want everybody to have a wonderful week. Remember, put down below anything that resonates with you or doesn't, or any comments or anything. And I'll see you next week. Bye guys.